Welcome to the Third and Wrong YouTube channel. It is your boy Dylan today, and I am going to be doing a Daniel Jeremiah mock talk. Mock talks are basically mock draft reviews for our channel, and we go over different mock drafts from other creators or other talking heads in the sport and give our thoughts and opinions on those mock drafts. I recently put mine own out, the Dylan Mock Draft 2.0. I really like it. If you guys go and give that video a view as well, really appreciate that. But before we get into this video, just another reminder, we are a small channel at this moment with 126 subscribers at the time of recording. We would appreciate getting more than that. If you do like this kind of content, you get more of it if you subscribe. Plus, if you give us a like and comment, it does help us in the algorithm. You know, that fancy little word right there. And, you know, it gives us more motivation to keep doing these videos. Daniel Jeremiah is a former scout, I believe, in the NFL. And now he does NFL media analyst kind of things. He just released this one today, and I couldn't get to it because of work. So here we are getting to it now. You know, less than 24 hours. That's not too late. So the first one here, I'm going to try and not spoil these picks just because it kind of ruins the purpose of it a little bit. But we're going to go with the first one here is the Carolina Panthers taking Bryce Young. One of the things that I think is interesting about that is I do think that Frank Reich is going to appreciate Bryce Young's mentality, his maturity as far as the quarterback goes. And I think he's going to be willing to overlook his size and just get the best, QB mind into his locker room. So I think Bryce Young is that dude for Frank Reich, and I think he will kind of appreciate Bryce Young's clutch factor. He does turn it up at the end of the games and the halves, and he does a very good job in that space, and that's something that Frank Reich, if you know him, does appreciate that kind of thing. So I actually do think this is a sneaky good pick and could very well be the pick here. There's about 4 quarterbacks that could go here and within the next 5 or 7 picks, however you look at it. So the next one here is going to be the Houston Texans, and they are going to be taking quarterback CJ Stroud. And this is one, as a Colts fan, I would not like because I do think CJ Stroud is a very good quarterback. The Arizona Cardinals stay put and get the edge Will Anderson out of Alabama. A lot of people have him as edge 1. I think he's edge 1 right now, but Tyree Wilson later on in the board I think is more future friendly as a prospect. All right, moving on to this next one here. We have the Indianapolis Colts staying at number 4 and selecting Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. This is one I could reasonably understand. Not trading up, not trading down, taking a quarterback with great skills. He does have some improvement that he needs to work on, but it is someone that I think Shane Steichen will work with. He's going to be able to survive his first year or two. And the hope is by doing that, he gives himself some time to develop in the off seasons and just over time as a quarterback. So this is one that I wouldn't hate. I don't think any of the 4 quarterbacks I'm going to hate on the roster if the Colts do get one. My only suspicion is that the Colts might be out of the quarterbacks if, the 2 that go ahead are the only 2 that they want. So we'll see. But this is a good pick. I like this a lot. I would not be mad about it at all. Number 5, we have the Seattle Seahawks taking Jalen Carter. And there are off-field issues. I don't think that teams are going to care too much about these because of the prospect that he is and just the fact that he didn't get any jail time. Illegally racing is definitely like something that's serious, but it's not akin to some other things that could really hurt his draft stock even more. So I do suspect that Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, and Tyree Wilson are probably going to be about the top 3 defensive players off the board. With the next pick, though, we got the Detroit Lions taking Devon Witherspoon here. The Lions did just invest like in 2 or 3 other corners for the Detroit Lions, and got some pretty good players in that. Not just scrubs, and it'll be interesting because this is something that he could definitely do. The Detroit Lions could definitely do this, but I would suspect they go a different route since they kind of not overspent, but like spent a lot of capital in the offseason already there. So I would be surprised, but it's not bad. Devon Witherspoon is a very good corner, and if he goes this high, good for him. Number 7, the Raiders do not take Will Levis like most people would suspect, but they get Tyree Wilson, one of the more dominant style edge rushers. He's extremely tall for the position, but he also is bendy. He has speed. He has a lot of athletic ability, and as a edge, I think he has more potential than anyone in this class. So, good pick for the Raiders that really need some help on the defense. Next up here, we got the Atlanta Falcons going Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon. He was with Colorado before. He has a basketball background. He has a lot of ball skill as far as catching interceptions, being in the right place at the right time. And I think he has the size to be that man/zone corner and just do it all in the NFL. He does need to learn a little bit, but AJ Terrell is going to be the cornerback 1. And Christian Gonzalez, doesn't have to take the toughest matchup 100% of the time. So I think that'll be good for Christian Gonzalez to land here. Number 9, we have the Chicago Bears taking Peter Skoronski, offensive line out of Northwestern. This is one that I could definitely see happen because of his versatility. However, if I'm the Bears, I would be looking for a bona fide left tackle prospect if I'm taking the first offensive lineman on the board. But, this isn't bad. I think this would definitely help the Bears. The Philadelphia Eagles, they select Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. This is a player that I really like in a lot of different teams, mainly because he's very young for his position. As far as being an edge, his size is ahead of his age, his athleticism and everything like that. He is raw in a few areas of defensive line prowessness goes. But where else, would you want this kind of guy to go other than the Eagles, where he has like it says here, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. You even got, Jordan Davis. I believe they still have Hassan Reddick. Like, so many people for this guy to learn, pick up things from, and just be a student of the game in Philadelphia. So this might be the best landing spot for Van Ness. Number 11, though, we got the Tennessee Titans taking Jackson Smith-Njigba, which is very interesting because they have offensive line needs. Yes, they also have needs at wide receiver. This is very interesting as far as just priority goes. However, this wouldn't be the worst thing ever. You have Treylon Burks and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Gives you 2 young wide receivers that can produce. However, I just don't think that this is what's going to happen. I don't see it as a good play either. So, that's my opinion, though. Number 12, we got the Houston Texans taking Myles Murphy, edge out of Clemson. This guy is someone that can land top 10 or, top 25. Like, he has a lot of play all across the board in first round right now. But the reason that a lot of people like Myles Murphy is his size and athleticism. However, he doesn't necessarily do one thing all that particularly well. He doesn't have like an elite side of himself. Where it's like, oh yeah, definitely he's got the edge and he's going to bend over or he's got spin moves or whatever. And he's not, clearly a run guy. He's a good edge prospect in both, run defense, pass, rushing. I could see him going all over the board because it's hard to really see what he's going to be like in the NFL. Though his athleticism is NFL, athletic. So I think he can go here. I do suspect that the Texans might prioritize someone like him, especially with D'Amico Ryans. However, there might be someone else that I would prefer for the Texans if I'm drafting for him, and that might be here with the New York Jets taking Nolan Smith, edge out of Georgia. The thing with Nolan Smith is his speed is unreal for an outside linebacker. He also has coverage skills, and he's not going to be a liability in coverage because he has that speed. He can cover tight ends, and he can hang with the bigger wide receivers easily. So I think Nolan Smith, though he's coming off an injury, I think he might be one of the best edge players in this draft. So because of his versatility. So I do like this one. It's something that I would expect Nolan Smith to even go higher potentially. So, good pick for the Jets, though. So I can't really hate it at all. The New England can't speak. The New England Patriots take Bijan Robinson here, running back out of Texas. Some people say the best prospect altogether in the draft, which means I don't think the Patriots are going to take him. If they do, good for them. I don't see them ever taking a running back in the first round. This is just a whole franchise deal. It would be good for them because they do like the run and they do value that aspect of the offense. But they do have needs at tackle. They do have needs across the board on the defense, in my opinion. They also have wide receivers that they need to upgrade. And to me, a running back just is not the move here. I don't like this at all. Just to be honest, I do like the player. He's obviously one of the best, if not the best players in the draft. But it's just not at that position. I don't understand it. But next here we got the Green Bay Packers taking offensive tackle Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. I saw this dude before he even stepped foot on Ohio State, making some highlight tapes. He's just a specimen of a player. He has experience on left and right side of the line, and I think he can be your left tackle of the future, pretty certainly, at least in my opinion. And gives, like it says here, Jordan Love his full experience as being a quarterback. You get him a franchise left tackle to start off his career. That's going to be huge for his development as well. Next is the Washington Commanders taking Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah. You'll hear me say this every time I bring this up. He's probably the best receiving tight end in the whole draft. Very special with the ball in his hands. He's good at getting open and running, more complex routes than most tight ends usually run. He also just has really solid hands. Doesn't really drop the ball ever if he does. He could learn, or just apply himself more in the blocking aspect of being a tight end. But nowadays, you're not asking as many tight ends to do that, or at least your primary receiving tight end to do that. So I can see them using him right away in that area of just being the big slot, essentially. So I do like this pick. If I'm the Commanders, there's a whole lot of picks that can go here. I'm not necessarily picking by needs as much as impactful players, and Dalton Kincaid is an impactful player. Number 17, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia. Kind of fits along the same lines as Paris Johnson. One of those guys that you could see him being that left tackle of the future. Even if the Steelers want to put him at right tackle, he's going to be very good. He has a lot of size, versatility as a tackle, but he also just has, I feel like that mentality as a tackle to be dominant in the NFL. So I do like him as a prospect. There are obviously every rookie has things that they can work on. But I think Broderick Jones to the Steelers would be a really good move. Number 18 here, we got the Detroit Lions landing Calijah Kancey. Before the Lions got Devon Witherspoon. So they had two players here from, smaller Power 5 schools. But Pittsburgh and D tackles just work for some reason. If you hear anything about Calijah Kancey, you're going to hear things about Aaron Donald. And Calijah Kancey is just a winner. He is very mean. He gets in people's faces, and he can get through a line pretty good for his size. So this isn't like the worst thing ever. It is a little bit higher than I'm expecting Kancey to go, mainly because of size. But this kid's good. I think he produces, and I think he deserves a first round shot. So I don't hate this. Just interesting how they went corner and then a smaller defensive tackle. I just am not envisioning the Detroit Lions doing that per se. But we got the next pick here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Will Levis. One thing I don't try to always bring up my mock draft, but I have this exact pick happening in my mock draft because I feel like Will Levis is that fourth guy that if the Raiders or the Colts or whoever in that top echelon of picks this first round, if they're not sold on him, he could fall all this way. And the Buccaneers are in a position to draft a quarterback, so I could very well see this happening. I do expect that the Buccaneers or someone else might trade up ahead of this pick to do it, but not to my own horn. But I did this before Jeremiah did, so it is what it is. But we got the next pick here. This is the Seattle Seahawks going Jordan Addison. I have him as my personal wide receiver one. I understand if you have someone else. That's kind of the part of having an opinion, I guess. But the Seattle Seahawks taking Jordan Addison is very interesting. He is closer to a Tyler Lockett than he is a DK Metcalf. Which the thing is I think any of these players can play slot. It's not that big of a deal. But you don't have that, that inner slot kind of shifty, short area kind of guy. I think Jordan Addison's probably the closest to that. But I think this is kind of like a future replacement for Tyler Lockett if they want to, move off of his salary for whatever reason, and kind of have that 1-2 punch still with DK Metcalf and then a Jordan Addison. So I could see them going wide receiver here. Definitely a possibility, but there's all sorts of moves that the Seattle Seahawks can do here. But this one isn't bad. Next one here, we got the Los Angeles Chargers taking Zay Flowers out of Boston College. He's a smaller wide receiver that plays, bigger than his actual size, and he's very skilled at the position. He can win all sorts of levels on the field. He can win, just by releases alone. He can also win by his route running. So someone that I think is going to excel in the NFL, mainly because the game is playing more towards his strengths nowadays. So I think Zay Flowers with Justin Herbert's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Number 2, the Baltimore Ravens land Joey Porter Jr. This is one that I can definitely see because I see the Ravens treating the cornerback position as a position to reload in. Before that, they reload in the wide receiver position because they are going to put a bigger strain on that position. So Joey Porter Jr. makes sense. One, because of his play style is something that the Ravens are going to like, but he also has that pro father card essentially. He has the pedigree essentially, and that's something that the Baltimore Ravens are going to appreciate because he's going to come in as a pro. He's going to understand the deal, and I think he's going to be a great team player wherever he lands. So the Ravens get a really good pick here. Something I've been saying for a while as Joey Porter going to the Ravens. If it happens, great. If not, it's not that big of a deal, but I do think this is a good pick for the Ravens. The next is the Minnesota Vikings. They get Hendon Hooker, quarterback out of Tennessee. This is something that I appreciate seeing because it's not something that you see all the time. And it's something that can very well happen. If it's not 23, it could be anywhere at these last picks if someone trades up, if they really love Hendon Hooker, which there's no reason to not love him other than his age and his recent injury. But this gives them potentially their quarterback of the future at, a relatively lower pick. And that's a very good thing to do if you are, kind of in that position of you got a solid average quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Now you have a potential to take someone that can take your team even further with Hendon Hooker. So I do like this. This is something I haven't seen, and I do appreciate this pick actually because this is something that could happen. The Jacksonville Jaguars, again, I'm going to toot my own horn. I do have this pick, so it makes me kind of feel validated in my opinions. And I did this before Jeremiah's mock draft, but Deontay Banks to the Jaguars makes a lot of sense. Good size. They do need the position a little bit, and someone that produced very well at his position in Maryland. I believe he had a few interceptions, and if you didn't see, his combine workout was amazing. So Deontay Banks started off this draft process as a third or fourth round quarterback, maybe. He's now in the first round, so good for him. Number 25, we have the New York Giants taking Joe Tippmann. And I will fess up here, I do not know of Joe Tippmann other than basically what you see on most, draft boards and stuff like that. I haven't watched his tape. I'm just going to assume that Daniel Jeremiah has done his homework, and it makes sense for the Giants to take a guard here because that is the one position that I think they could definitely elevate in the first round. And the Tippmann's one is just one I haven't seen, so I'll kind of rely on Jeremiah being a good dude on that one. Next, the Dallas Cowboys taking Mazi Smith. This is a D tackle out of Michigan, and I did take some time to watch Mazi Smith. He's someone that I can see why you're going to say, yeah, he's take up space in the defensive line, put him on our team. But for what he does, you can do that with a lot of people. And Mazi Smith, to me, doesn't, jump off the page. And he's not someone that I feel like does anything, wildly different that you can't get some sort of similar value later on in the draft. So, to me, I don't see this one. I would prefer Felix Anudike-Uzomah out of Kansas State, or a number of different other defensive linemen that could make a big impact with the Dallas Cowboys. Next, I have Daniel Jeremiah has the Buffalo Bills taking Quentin Johnston out of TCU. This is a 6'2" wide receiver who has yak ability. We've seen these kind of guys, and unless they are really good at that specific skill, or they have a lot more their game is a lot more rounded, they can excel pretty well. To me, I just don't see Quentin Johnston being a yak guy in the NFL, and at that point, he doesn't have much else to give other than his size. And so it sounds kind of harsh on this dude. I would be happy with him at some point in the draft. I just don't know if that's the first round for me. I just don't see him as a first round guy, especially since he's not 6'4". He's 6'2". Number 28, the Cincinnati Bengals land Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee. They did just get Orlando Brown, like it just says here, but Jonah Williams has requested a trade. So that's kind of a swap there if for some reason Jonah Williams can't switch over to right tackle. If that doesn't happen, if Jonah Williams does get traded, I could see this happening. But if not, I really like the other Darnell Washington, the tight end. Kind of give a help in that, offensive line, run blocking position kind of deal. But he also has, tight end flexibility. So that's the pick that I like. But this wouldn't be bad if the Jonah Williams trade actually happens. Number 29, the New Orleans Saints land Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame. This is a pick that it could happen. I see the Saints go in a lot of different areas, mainly because tight end, to me, right now, isn't necessarily like a we must do this kind of deal, especially since they're changing quarterbacks. There's a few other things that they kind of need to get solidified now that they have their guy. So, Michael Mayer here isn't the worst thing ever. I actually expect him to go a lot higher. Maybe even the Bengals, if they're looking for a tight end as well. But, if this is where he lands, good for him because, he's going to get some play with Derek Carr. That might be good. And, yeah, like it says here, excellent value. So, I can't really hate it all that much. And then, looks like I got another, pick from my mock draft on here, Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I had him go to the Eagles as well. I do like this fit. extremely well. It is interesting that they are pairing two edge rushers, and one being Lucas Van Ness. So you got 6 names out of 2 players. Good for them. But I like Felix a lot. I went and watched some of his tape, and he gets doubled and triple teamed left and right. And when he's not, he's getting the quarterback down to the ground. This dude's really good. I don't know why he's flying under the radar this much. Maybe it's because of his conference and some of the matchups that he had, and he kind of just took advantage of those. But I think this guy has the size and the motor to be really good in the NFL, especially if the Eagles get a hold of him. I like this pick a lot. And the last one here, we got Will McDonald, the fourth out of Iowa State. I think he is a very, very good edge. Though he didn't have, the setup like you probably have heard at Iowa State, he will produce better than what he did at Iowa State if he's given a role to, utilize a lot better. But with Will McDonald, you get someone that can pass rush. They're losing a few people, Frank Clark being one of them. And it gives you a young edge rusher that really can take the load off of the rest of the defensive line. And you just get after the quarterback. That's the name of the game in the NFL. So that's not a bad pick. I would expect them to go with someone a little bit heftier frame-wise because that's what Spagnuolo does. But this isn't a bad pick at all either. So that's the Daniel Jeremiah mock draft. I actually like it. The only thing is I do think the Quentin Johnston pick and the Bijan Robinson pick are the ones that really, stand out to me as like, I don't know. But other than that, I do trust Daniel Jeremiah's opinions. I think he's a good analyst as far as the mock draft goes. This is kind of his territory. And I like that he has some of my picks. So, I like it.